Alright guys, welcome back to Telltale. I'm Emily.
I'm Greg.
And today we're going to be reviewing Shade's Children by Garth Nix, who's one of my favorite authors. This is actually the first sci-fi book I ever read in middle school. Yeah.
Okay.
So this was my first introduction to science fiction, because I was always into the fantasy and not really romance novel kind of things, but teen, a lot of stuff focusing on mental health. Now that I think about it, novels about kids with mental health stuff and weird things going on and stuff like that. So this was my first sci-fi novel ever.
Okay.
And it's not actually the first Garth Nix book I ever read though. So
right.
Australian author.
Mm-hmm.
Still writing today. He's got a bunch of new stuff, fairly recent stuff that just came out.
Started out working as a bookseller.
Yes, so...
which kind of explains his most recent book.
Yes, the left-handed bookseller of London.
Yeah.
With a license to kill and sell books. I love that tagline. Can't wait to read that one. But yeah, so Garth Nix, he's still writing. He's still doing stuff. I think this was written in 1997.
Yes.
So this was one of his earliest... I think it was his earliest...
his third novel.
Okay, yeah. His third novel, Ragwitch.
After Ragwitch and...
the other one. Was it Sabriel? Sabriel, however you say it. I don't know. Anyway, one or the other. I only know it because I read the word. So yeah, Shade's Children. Do you have any other information on Garth Nix that's interesting, or...?
No. He's pretty new to me. He's very contemporary. He's still alive.
Yeah. We have all these authors now that they're still writing and still alive.
Mostly we're used to reviewing books by dead people.
Exactly. So, yeah, Garth Nix, one of my faves.
Mm-hmm.
So Synopsis is basically, this is kind of a dystopian sci-fi novel where
it is
how the adults have all gone missing. No one knows where they went.
And that one's not really explained too well, but it doesn't really matter. Yeah,
the kids wake up one day and all the adults are gone. And they're getting herded into these dormitories by these things they suppose are aliens. And once you come to a certain age, you get taken to what they call the meat factory, which they basically take all these kids, dismember them, and rebuild them into monsters.
Yep.
And the monsters are there for these overlords, alien people, whoever they are, to basically have giant gladiator war fights over turf wars for fun and entertainment. Yeah. Basically. So you kind of start the novel off with a kid who's escaped. They call him Goldeneye because his eyes are gold. And he has these unique powers after the change, as they called it, happened when these overlords came and the parents were all gone and kids were all herded up. So kids have started gaining unusual psychic abilities and unusual telekinetic things. They just all have these really specific mind-based or neurological based superpowers. Yeah. After all of this happened, and it's not quite explained how or why, but there's enough plausible deniability where you're just okay, cool, whatever. So you're basically following Goldeneye as he's escaping from some monsters, found by these other kids, and then taken in to their headquarters, where they are actually serving an artificial intelligence who goes by Shade. And Shade is kind of a Hal, really, when you think about it.
Well, Shade is the AI creation of some scientists, and he built it, basically his mind and personality and knowledge, into this artificial intelligence so that he could continue on. So then the scientist died and this artificial intelligence continues, but with a different name. Yeah,
and basically it's almost like the AI has conflict between its conditional logic and the human part of this scientist. Yeah. So you deal with Shade is very analytical. We do this, people sacrifice themselves for the greater good of the whole, that kind of thing, and he's taking on this responsibility of trying to help humanity. But at the same time, he's killing off these kids left and right with no remorse because he needs to or wants to know more about these aliens who have basically taken over everything.
Mm-hmm.
So he's really like sending these kids into suicide missions all the time to try and find out what these aliens are, how they're working things, how everything works, because they can like communicate telekinetically as well, and how their technology is influencing humans and all that other stuff that he's basically just letting
ultimately Shade has the goal of taking down the overlords and setting everybody free, but
it's at
he makes sacrifices to get there.
Yes. So there's a lot of morality issues, and you just kind of follow this character, Goldeneye, who gets integrated into this group of 3 others, Ella Drum and Nadine like or something. Yeah. Nadia, I can't remember her name.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they all have special abilities. Shade keeps sending them out on like recon missions to try and figure out stuff, to get technology to bring to the submarine that they're all living in.
Yeah.
And basically just runs these kids ragged until they all die. And eventually one of their team members gets taken during a skirmish by some alien things. So, like, the last half of the book is trying to rescue him.
Mm-hmm.
And then also trying to go and stop the overlords.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And I don't want to say too much about the end. I liked the way it ended. It was pretty good. I don't want to spoil it for people.
Yeah.
Because I tend to do that with more contemporary books. I don't like to spoil the end for the contemporary books, but like classics, people know the story so well from like word of mouth.
Everybody has already read except a few people.
Exactly. It's kind of one of those things where it's so, even if you haven't read the classic literature, it's so word of mouth that you kind of know how things end anyway. Because people talk about it so much because they're classics and they've been around for hundreds of years. So this being a contemporary book, I don't want to ruin the end.
Right.
But read it. It was I give it 4 stars, but I don't want to call it a top tale because I don't feel like it's high literature. This is just a really fun adventure.
Well, fun adventure can be a top tale, but my reading of this, I enjoyed it immensely. But I've read a lot of science fiction adventures by the likes of Paul Anderson and Edmund Hamilton, Alan Dean Foster, and I see this as on par with works like that, not above it, but as good as. It's definitely a solid science fiction adventure. It's definitely a book you're going to enjoy. I would recommend it to you. But there again, we can't really add this to a list that contains books like The Time Machine and Great Gatsby and
this isn't a
even
super...
On London is still a step above this.
Yeah, and this has, you could see a lot of influences of other scientific classics in here. I feel like this is a good compilation of those and kind of paying really nice homage to those, but it's not doing anything super revolutionary.
No.
Really. So, insulin pump going off. Excuse me, guys. Sorry about that. Ignore my beeping. It's fine.
Okay.
The diabetes will not win today! Anyway. So, yeah. Garth Nix. Good read. Love Shade's Children. Highly recommend. Anything else you want to say about this?
No, just that, like I say, I really enjoyed it. That's the first thing I've ever read by Garth Nix. I really never heard of him before I met her.
Fantasy stuff. Okay. His fantasy novels, I actually think, were a lot stronger than this. But this was only his 3rd novel, so it was one of his earlier works. But I like his fantasy work, I think, a lot better, especially his Keys to the Kingdom series and his the Old Kingdom series. Both really solid, really great original. Those ones blew me away because there is so much originality in them. This one just feels like it pays homage to a lot of really great science fiction stories.
It's just a fun book. It's an excellent book. It's a tight book. It's well written. I don't have any issues with it whatsoever. It's just not a league above 100 other science fiction adventures that I've read.
And there's also a continuation or an additional short story of this one, right? And that was in his...
And that's in... what's the name of that book?
To Hold the Bridge.
That's it.
Yeah, he has a series
I've got it back
of...
here behind me somewhere.
I think it's down at the bottom, one of the bottom
I think it's on the very bottom.
Oh gosh. Yeah, it's way down there.
But I bought that because the short story is set in the same world. It's not the same characters, though. It's not like a continuation or a prequel to this. But it is set in the same universe. So
it's a good one.
It's an excellent book. Go out and read it. Decide for yourself.
Yeah. That's pretty much all I have to say about that, honestly. So, like, subscribe, let us know what you think of it, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.